Good morning, great Americans. It's another great American video. It is the Memorial Day weekend, 2025, and this is another one of my, uh, as they say, streaming consciousness, an unscripted morning muse about Memorial Day and a couple of other things. Um, so, uh, I got a couple of things bouncing around in my head. And well, it is Memorial Day. And you have to wonder these days with the ignorance and the stupidity of so many people these days who embrace so many just flat out insane, ignorant, uh, unnatural, abominable ideologies and different things. How many of them really appreciate Memorial Day? It's fashionable to say Happy Memorial Day. Is it really a happy day? I mean, I guess you could sort of frame it that way, but it's a day to it's called Memorial Day for a reason. It's a day to bring back memory and remember and think about all the men and women who gave their lives for this country. And what does that mean? And do people even appreciate that these days? I don't want to, I'm not trying to change the subject, but real quick, I want to mention uh, Elon Musk, and here's why. Excuse me. Here's a man who, he's very successful, very smart. He's done some amazing things. He's got the Tesla, got the electric car, got SpaceX. I mean, he's just amazing, out of the box thinker, right? Uh, and here's a man who wanted to step forward out of his own pocket, as the left and people like Bernie Sanders like to say, oh, the oligarchs are running everything. Here's a man who wanted to give back without asking for anything in return. He wanted to step forward and offer his own time, his own expertise, and all this stuff to achieve a very important goal, right? Which was to expose corruption and fraud, which equals money, wasted money, in government. Right? We are a people who are $40 trillion in debt. And that cannot go on. There will come a day when the entire economy collapses because our debt and our interest on the debt becomes so large that it's just it will we can't pay. It will crush us. Okay. Right now we have to pay the interest on our debt, and that's and as a piece of the pie. It's grow a piece of the annual budget pie. If this was a piece of pie right here, let's see. If this was a piece of pie, the paying the interest on the debt is growing and growing and growing as a piece of the pie. Eventually, it'll take up the whole pie, and then you have no budget, you have no money, and everything collapses. Right. So that's why it has to be taken. And what did he do? He got together some of his programmers and did amazing things sifting through. He exposed, I mean, do you remember all the hundreds of different things? He exposed like 20 billion for gay puppet shows in Venezuela and 30 billion for transgender training in Zimbabwe. And I mean, just insane stuff. Your money is just pouring out. While the Democrats want to raise your taxes, this is what they're spending your money on. So he exposed all this stuff. He did something that no president, Republican or Democrat, has ever been able to do, and that is literally open your eyes to the corruption, fraud, waste, spending, waste, abuse inside government. And if we clean that all up, we wouldn't even need to spend more taxes. We might even be able to lower our taxes. He did an amazing thing. What did the media do? And of course, people on the left and Democrats, obviously, but the media do to this man? They destroyed him because the mainstream media is nothing more than talking points for the fascists of the Democrat Party. They proceeded to destroy this man. Now, what does that mean? And why am I mentioning this on Memorial Day? I'm about to wrap it up. Here's why. Here's a man who asked for nothing. This country has given him everything and helped him be successful. He asked for nothing in return. He only wanted to serve in his own way, the way he's capable of, to the best of his abilities, right? To serve in his own way and help save America, because we do need to be saved from debt and deficits, and as I just explained. And he stepped forward, he gave his own time, and they destroyed him. They destroyed that man. The Democrats went out in the streets and burned down his factories and started destroying Teslas, even though most of them are probably owned by Democrats, ironically. Just acting like animals and brown shirt Nazis and brutes, terrorizing. And then the media, of course, glommed on and just started calling them all kinds of names and terrorizing them and calling them all. This is what America, the American mainstream media, the legacy media, and Democrats and the left do to good, honest people who want to step forward and serve. They destroy them. So, what does that mean on Memorial Day? Well, the left and the media, they can't. I'm sure in some way they would love to step up and destroy the military and warrior type of masculine men, which I'm going to get to in a minute, who really are. I mean, I appreciate the service of everybody in the military, women and all, but let's face it, there are only certain people who are a warrior breed who will actually jump up out of a ditch and take the bayonet off the end of his gun and and go hand to hand combat with a Chinese soldier or a North Korean soldier and slice his throat. I mean, listen, that takes a certain type of warrior breed of man. I'm not going to sit here and fuck around with politically correct bullshit. That takes a man of a certain breed. So while the Democrats will, and the legacy media will not directly try to destroy the military itself the way they did with Elon Musk, because the military is very popular and not cool but they will attack around the periphery and the edges. One of those edges, as I just said, is men. The left and the media have just been destroying the natural man. Now, what is the natural man? The natural man and the natural woman is very loving and nurturing, and they give birth to children. And hey, I'm just keeping it real. You can call me a dinosaur or you want, but all your transgender, filthy, degenerate garbage is just that garbage, and it's fake science. Homosexuals suffer from a mental disorder, and if you say that they don't, then you're a liar and an idiot. And all this stuff has proceeded to destroy the family and destroy masculinity. But I'm telling you the truth. The natural woman is nurturing, caring, homemaker, give birth. Not to say they're not able to do. I'm just saying this is the natural inside. Of course, there's great women doctors, and I'm all for that. Doctors and lawyers and president. Hell, I can think of quite a few women I'd love to see as president. So don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I can think of a number of women I would put into the White House right now. So don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about the natural woman is those things. The natural man is masculine. He's aggressive because he goes out, he provides for his family. If you were living up in the mountains, he'd hunt and kill and bring home meat. I mean, that's the natural man. The natural man is aggressive, strong, uh, uh, but a good man is also gentlemanly and and good to people. Um, so masculinity has two parts: gentlemanliness and brutishness. And the left, the Democrats, first they came for gentlemanliness, insisting that women should be offended when men pay the check and hold the door and pull out chairs for them, right? Um, and also, and then when it comes to, let's say, brutishness, or what these fake science liars call toxic masculinity. Yeah, I mean, it's right in the title. They hate real men. They call it toxic masculinity. Uh, that's been going on for years now, and they've turned men into little sissy boys, right? So you watch old movies and you see great actors like John Wayne, right? Kirk Douglas. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I can't, I can think of a bunch of guys, big movie stars. And then you got wussy men today, little wussy men, like, I don't know. What was that show, with the four guys and I can't remember, the four kids, the four goofy, nerdy kids who live in the apartment. Oh, Big Bang Theory. That's right. Big Bang Theory. Look at those guys. They're wussy men. They're little sissy men. They're not men. Could you imagine one of those guys picking up a weapon and frontally attacking a North Korean soldier? Come on, man. You know. So the left and the media have attacked and destroyed the concept of a real man, while at the same time, and women do, they don't even know what a woman is these days, and family and everything. So they've done that. And how about the idea of patriotism, which is also an important element? I mean, if you're going to fight and die for your country, what is your country? Why should you fight and die for it? Well, once upon a time in World War II and before that, we understood why we were fighting. And today you've got these disgusting kids in colleges, attacking Israel and supporting Hamas, and they just learn in school that the white man is horrible and that America is a slave. Do you know that there are kids who are so stupid in college that they think that America is the only nation that ever had slaves, not realizing that every single civilization and kingdom and nation throughout the history of man for thousands of years, they've all had slaves. Different, little variations, a little bit different. But the Roman Empire had slaves, obviously. But see, now they took their slaves from other countries that they had conquered. So for them, it wasn't based on race. It was based on, okay, we invaded this country, we took over this country, now we're taking people for slaves. So, and with America, it was the African slave trade to purchase slaves from Africa, which black people sold us the slaves, and that's a whole other thing we won't go into now. In imperial Russia under the czars, they weren't slaves, so to speak, but they were serfs and people tied to the lands. It was basically slavery, the same thing. During medieval Europe, you had people who were tied to a land under a certain lord or king in a little area. They never left, and so it might as well be slave. It's under a different name. It's still essentially sort of slavery. But anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, my point is the kids they today are learning to hate America. So why should they serve in the military? You 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 even have politicians on the left saying, "Oh, America was never great." What do you mean make America great again? America was never great. So this is the sort of atmosphere that the Democrats and the left foster. Now, see all these crosses behind me? That is the, let me scoot aside here for a minute. That is the American military uh, uh, cemetery in Normandy, France, where we invaded Normandy on D-Day. Look at all those crosses too. What does that tell you? For all those people who say America is not a Christian nation, that's another story for another day. But anyway, so how will kids, if there are any few remaining real men left growing up who want to become soldiers, why should they serve the military when they're told that America is such a terrible place? You see, so in its own, even though the left doesn't want to, they can't politically afford it, want to directly attack the military and destroy it, they have certainly destroyed all the ingredients that make a military work. They've destroyed the important people who join, which is fighting warrior type of men, and they have destroyed practically the reason that such men would want to join, and that is to defend the greatest nation ever to exist. So let us remind ourselves why America is the greatest nation to ever exist. First of all, the Declaration of Independence really says it all. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their creator with inalienable rights. Now, if you have even a modicum of intelligence, you would realize what a inspired, amazing thing that is to say. This was the 1700s. This was back when the king ruled Great Britain and Great Britain's empire spanned the globe. And whatever, every country was either ruled by a king or a Russian czar or a German Kaiser or some sort of tribal lord in Africa or some sort of emperor in Japan or China. Everywhere, kings, emperors, rulers. This is the world of the 1700s. And up comes these American men who say, no, all men are created equal. You're not born this or born royally or royal blood and all that bullshit. All men are created equal. And it is their creator who gives them their rights, not government. Government doesn't decide what rights you have. God decides what rights you have. And it is the job of government to protect and defend those rights. This is an amazing, revolutionary concept. The idea that we're all equal, we're all the same. You know, Now, we may achieve different things, and some may be smarter than others, and some may get rich because they're clever, and others maybe not so much. So there's different levels of tasks and jobs and stuff in society, right? Not to say when we say we're all equal, we're not talking about the communist Marxist idea of equity that the Democrats push. That's where everybody has an equal outcome. That's communism and Marxism. That's why DEI is evil and Marxist. The concept of equity, as the Democrats say, is Marxist and evil because no, we weren't founded on equity. We were founded on the idea that we are all created equal and our creator has given us the same rights. Those rights are under the headings of freedom and liberty, right? That's what's amazing about America. Now, you go out, you're a free man. You go out and you choose your path. But the government doesn't guarantee your outcome. You can rise or fall. If you want to be a moron and an idiot and do dope and drugs while you're in school and don't study and you don't graduate, then don't cry about it when you're 30 and you can't get a job. You chose your friggin' path. But if you study hard, get all A's and do that, and you're a smart person and you're a hard worker, you will rise. Okay? If you That's up to you, not government. But as far as your rights are concerned, so this is what and so this is was the amazing thing about America the way it was created. Now, yeah, we had slavery and blah blah blah, but we got rid of it. So we had our faults, but that's the other thing about amazing thing about America is the system was created in such a way that the more and more the population became enlightened, right? The mechanism was in place to do away with those when there's something bad going on. So America is truly an exceptional nation. And then look at what we achieved. Now look at this thing behind me. This is the United States of America saving an entire continent from Nazism and fascism, while meanwhile we were saving the Pacific Rim from the conquest of the Japanese Empire. So, for someone to say America was never great when we literally saved the world from totalitarianism. And then we continued to do so during the Cold War with the Soviet Union, which was also totalitarian, and we brought that down to its knees. Right? We landed a man on the moon. We were the first to do all kinds of stuff. America is the greatest nation ever to exist on earth. America is founded on the principles that your rights come from God and no man are supposed to be able to take those away. No man is supposed to tell you what you can and cannot do, right? And you're free to rise and fall on your own, right? And that's why America is worth fighting for. But do you think you can find a college kid these days who can articulate what I just told you about America? I'm sure there's a few, not many. So this Memorial Day, when we remember all who gave their lives for that concept, right? So that you and I could be here today and just be free and be what we want to be. Be a lawyer, be a doctor. If you want to be an asshole and go to jail, well, that's pretty stupid, but you can do that, and many do. Uh, uh, you know, where Will those guys right here behind me, where are the next generation? When kids cannot articulate why America is the greatest nation to ever exist, why it's worth giving your life for. Oh, and one last thing. Look at our elected leaders, by which I mean the Democrats. They don't give a damn about any of that. They don't care about any of that. They are promoting policies which are anti-American and anti-God. You want to talk? You know what they will allow into schools? They will allow sick, disgusting gay pornography. They will allow kids to change pronouns. They will keep sexual issues about children secret from their parents. They will promote sexual, degenerate, filthy garbage to little kids. They will allow all that into your public school, but they won't allow God. See those crosses behind me? That's what the left won't allow into the school. They say that is inappropriate. It's a the left, the Democrats say it is appropriate to allow gay porn and condoms and abortions and degenerate, sick lifestyles into the minds of little elementary school children. That's what the Democrats say is acceptable. But these crosses here behind me on the graves of the fallen that we celebrate on Memorial Day, that's not allowed in schools, according to the Democrats. Now, you think about that. This Memorial Day, did these men and women, did they fight for that? Did they fight so that children could be sexualized? So that, I mean, I have I'm not going to go into this today, but I have other videos about the war on children. There's a piece on my website about the war on children, about the destruction of the family. Is that what these guys died for? We have people in government who are just doing, they're throwing away your money, and they will attack and terrorize the man who tried to expose that corruption. Is that what these guys died for? You know, we America is at a crossroads right now. We are in a war between good and evil. These guys behind me, they were in a war between good and evil, a different one, but a war between good and evil all the same. I don't mean to get religious, but it's kind of hard not to when you look at all those crosses behind me. And I tell you that there is a spiritual war between good and evil. That war has been raging since Lucifer was cast out of heaven, along with his corrupt angels. And those angels became demons, and Lucifer, who was he was an angel, he became the leader of the damned, or whatever you want to call him. And since then, the war between good and evil has raged. That war manifests itself in our physical realm in many ways. When these men were fighting and dying, that evil manifested itself in people like Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. And we, despite all our faults back then, we were fighting on the side of good. Today, that evil manifests itself. Well, I can name a million ways in which it manifests itself in human trafficking and sexual trafficking and child labor and child trafficking. I mean, there's a million, but one of the ways it manifests itself is in the very existence of the Democrat Party. Yeah, that's right. You can laugh at me all you want, but I'll tell you one thing, real quick, just a reminder. which I mentioned in another video, the three among the top, well, I hate to put a number on it. There are several things that the Bible says are just grossly evil, just super evil sins. I mean, the Ten Commandments tell us about sins, but there's some sins that are just abominable, horrible abominations in the eyes of God. Three of those sins I can name off the top of my head are actually policy of the Democrat Party. They are promoted by the Democrat. They are encouraged by the Democrat Party and the mainstream media. Yeah. You want me to name them for you? Okay. How about the harming of children? Jesus said that you would be the harming. He said that if you lead a child into sin or to lead a child to commit sin, or then you would be better off if you had a big giant rock tied around your neck and you were thrown into the ocean than what's going to happen to you if you lead a little kid into sin. Now, do I need to show you all the photographs of classrooms where they have gay flags and transgender flags, and they're telling their kids that they can change their pronouns without telling their parents, and they're teaching kids the exact opposite of what the kids are learning when they go to church with their family? They're teaching them that sodomy is okay, by which I mean gay and gay marriage. That's sodomy. We all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. They teach them that's it. They lead kids into sin. So that's one. How about number two? Murder, abortion, murder, abortion. Yes, it's murder. I'm not going to go into it right now. When you destroy an innocent human life, that's murder. I don't give a damn what anybody says. That's what it is. So that's two. Uh, what was the third one? Sexual sins is like a huge one in the Bible. Sexual sins. And, again, sodomy, gay marriage. They promote gay marriage. They say gay marriage is okay. That's essentially sodomy. So there's three right there. You don't think the Democrat Party is evil? I just named three of the biggest evils in the Bible that the Democrat Party promotes and engages in. So don't give me that shit. Okay. So so is that what these guys fought for? Like they fought. That's not what they fought for. That is not what these guys did not fight for that filth. So we are in a war today. The question is, will good patriots and Americans who love their country and who have traditional values and traditional morals step forward and fight this new war, this faceless war? Not only do we need warrior, strong, masculine men for the family and to serve in the military to fight the coming wars, which China, it's happening, boy. China, fuck the Ukraine. That's a distraction. China's coming. It was Germany, then it was the Soviet Union, and China's next. Sure as night follows day. Not only that, but will we also have a different kind of warrior to fight this battle between good and evil? It's a civil war in America right now. It's a civil war. It's a cold civil war, like the Cold War was with the Soviet Union. We don't have armies fighting each other, but it's a civil war on all the same. On one side, you have Democrats in the left who embrace all manner of evil. As I just mentioned a minute ago, they embrace Marxism and socialism. They call it fancy, nice names, DEI and equity and all that garbage. They always love to dress up. The sign over the German death camps. Remember the sign that says "Arbeit macht frei" over the German It means work will set you free. The Germans love. They dressed up those death camps with fancy slogans. You're coming into the camp and it says "Work will set you free." Work hard and you'll be free. Nah, they never had any plans of setting them free. They were going to burn them. They were going to gas the Jews and burn them in the ovens. So, like, I mean, evil people always put false labels on stuff. So these labels of DEI and equity and tolerance and oh, a democratic socialism, right? Not Hitler's socialism, but it's democratic. They're all about labels that are bullshit. Black Lives Matter, which is nothing more than a communist, hate, racist organization. They put these fancy labels on stuff to fool stupid people. But the fact is that the Democrats represent hate and evil. They represent murdering children in the womb. They represent destroying and sexualizing children in schools. They represent socialism. They represent taking away your constitutional rights, including your gun rights, your right to free speech. They represent all that. They are evil. And on the other side, we have traditional Americans with traditional values who believe in the Constitution and who that's conservatism. Now, most conservatives vote Republican. You notice how I avoided the word Republican because the Republican Party is just a party. It's a club. Anybody can join. We have Republicans that are not good people. So I don't use that. I say conservatives. Now, right now, if you're a conservative, you will vote Republican because they're the closest ones to it. But American conservative is on the side of good in this battle between good and evil, and that's the war between good and evil. Now, right now, our champion or our general, so to speak, is Trump, and while he may have his faults, he is doing great, amazing things, but Trump will leave, and then what? So that's the war between good and evil. That's the war and that's what I want to remember. That's when I pull all this streaming consciousness together. I want to remember that we are in a war between good and evil. On Memorial Day, these men fought for the good. Okay, their war between good and evil was against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan and fascist Italy, and they won. They stepped up and they didn't care about themselves. They won because they had love of country and by the way, they had a military that actually wanted to win. Did you know? Here's an interesting fact before I sign off. Did you know that in World War II, where all these men behind me fought, we won a global war against Hitler and Europe and the Japanese Empire. This is a worldwide war. We fought and won. At that time, our army had 7 4-star generals. Today, we have 44 4-star generals, and we can't win a tiny war in Afghanistan against a bunch of backward medieval freaks. Why is it that we see these are things to think about on Memorial Day? Listen, I love people who serve in the military and I applaud their service, but you always have to remember something very important. When you reach the rank of like general, admiral, 2-star general, 3-star general, those guys become politicians and they are no longer really, I mean, it's hard to find a fighting man with fighting spirit with the battlefield sort of mentality who's wearing multiple stars on his shoulder. Many of them become corrupt. They're politicians. Look, for a general, or it's part of the government, right? In a certain way, I hate to say this, but in a certain way, the military is really part of the government, except they wear a uniform, right? It's part of under the president of the United States, you have several departments, right? You have the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, the Department of the Treasury, or whatever it is, and you have the Department of Defense. So the Department of Defense is part of government, and these guys are government workers. I mean, but they wear a uniform, right? But it's different, but still. But when you think about generals and stuff, they're really, a lot of them become politicians. They're government hacks, and some of them are corrupt. And now we've got, I mean, just look at what I just said. And we won World War II with 7 4-star generals. And now we have 44 4-star generals, and they can't seem to get their thumbs out of their asses. But anyway, I digress. But we are in this war today. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So you have the evil on the left in the Democrat Party, and you have the good people in conservatism, and that's the war. And that's the war that you and me are fighting. And so so that's the message on Memorial Day. Don't let what these men and women behind me died for, don't let it disappear. They were called the greatest generation in a book by Tom Brokaw, The Greatest Generation. They didn't have a lot back then, like we do today. And America had problems back then, segregation and all that. But they stepped up. And the people stepped up too, by the way. When I'm talking about fighting this war between good and evil today, one last one last example of what I'm talking about, and then I'm going to sign off. During World War II, the people at home also fought the war in their own way. Did you know? See, most people don't think about this, but during World War II, there was ration. All factories were converted to the war effort, and car factories, different factories were retooled so they could build tanks and planes and everything. Did you know that not one new car was built in America while we were in World War II? You know, like today, you go down, you buy a new car. No, no new cars during World War II. Everyone drove the cars that they had, or they bought a used car, because all the factories were converted to the war effort. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that happening today? That's a real war, man. That's what it was in World War II. No new cars. All the factories were putting out tanks and planes. Meat was rationed. You got a little coupon for meat, like cheese and dairy and stuff like fuel. Obviously, fuel was rationed. And there were collections for stuff. My mom told me the story about how they would have these collections at the end of the street where she lived on in Boston. They would, all the people in the neighborhood would find like old pots and pans and stuff made of metal, and they would throw it in this big collection thing at the end of the street, and they were finding metal for the war effort. And that's a nation on a true war footing. You know, do you think any of the little snowflakey purple-haired freaks and losers with their iPhones and they're crying and they're bitching about everything and they're vaping, and do you think they could live like that? That's how America won World War II. Could America ever get together and do something like that? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you right now. Trump is trying to revitalize trade and the economy. And not just, every president before has just done do a little tinkering around a little edge, but it never works. It's like rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic, as they say, right? Trump is trying to do something fundamental. Tariffs are a part of that. Now, for tariffs to work, we need to endure a little bit of pain for a brief while, maybe a year or two, a little bit of, for them to kick in and really work. But what are people doing? They're crying and they're moaning. And the Democrats, of course, take advantage of it to promote their evil agenda. And the liars and the freaks in the fake news media at CNN and ABC and CBS, they're lying about how Trump is failing. He's only been there a couple of months, but he's already failing and he's destroyed. You see? You see? Think about that. And then think about the effort that the American people put forth during World War II. Did they cry? And did they moan? And did they piss their pants? No. They stepped up, man. They did without cars. They did without meat. They did without milk. They did on fuel rations. They did, man. See? So these are all things to remember on Memorial Day, but most especially remember what I said about the greatness of America, how we were founded in the 1700s in a time when the entire world was ruled by kings and emperors and potentates, right? And czars and kaisers. The whole world was ruled that way, and nobody had rights, or not to speak of anyway, not that you could really enforce. And along come these men, and they say that we're all created equal, and our rights come from our Creator, God. And government has no place to give you rights or take away rights. They are simply there to protect and defend your God-given rights. And those rights include liberty, life, all you pro-choice people. They include liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is why America is exceptional. That's what these people gave their lives for. And don't throw it away. Don't throw it away, man. Don't vote for Democrats and their filthy, disgusting, degenerate policies of grooming kids in schools and democratic socialism. Like Bernie Sanders says, and high taxes and throwing the borders down and God knows what. Uh, you have we have to stay the course. And for all you people who voted for Trump, don't get weak, don't get wobbly kneed, don't get weak in the legs. Stay the course. His policies are correct. The only thing that's bad is that people are pussies and they start to wince and get weak at the first sign of a little difficulty. My God. Can you imagine these guys behind me? Could you imagine if they landed on Normandy Beach and then when all the doors from their landing craft come down and they're jumping into the water and the bullets are coming in, right? Could you imagine the minute that the bullets started coming in if they all said, "Oh, fuck this," and they turn around and started swimming back to the ship? Hell no. They plowed through. The bullets are coming at them from the Germans on the beach, but they kept going and they kept going and they kept going for neighbor and country. So if you voted for Trump, are you going to get weak and wobbly because of a little? Come on, man. Is that the way America was defended? By people who get weak and run at the first sign of trouble? No. Stay the course. Stay the course. Right? If you're a Democrat and you're on the wrong side of the spiritual war, you are on the wrong side of what these men and women fought for. And so, America is the greatest nation ever to exist. But as a famous person said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said, democracy, it's your democracy if you can keep it. Can we keep it? Or is the idea of freedom and liberty too much for human people to handle? Will the United States become just a little poof in the history of the human race? Oh, they had their chance at total freedom and liberty, and they fucked it up because they allowed power-hungry tyrants, socialists, and stuff to sweet talk them out of it. Will this great experiment in liberty and freedom just become a blip on the radar of human history because we couldn't handle it? Or will we step forward and fight for what's right? Anyway, I'm going long. So I better cut off this video. Thank you very much. Please subscribe to the Substack page. There's a link in the description of this video. And I will see you in the next great American video. Adios, muchachos.